Snow has a way of silencing the world, softening every sound until even the wind feels like it's whispering. In Russia's northern Ural Mountains, that silence is deeper, older, and heavier than anywhere else. It stretches across white slopes and dark forests unchanged for centuries, untouched by time. A place where the sky seems too wide, and the nights too long. In the winter of 1959, 9 skilled hikers entered that frozen wilderness. They were young, joyful, experienced, and determined to conquer the untouched northern ridges. They brought guitars, journals, and dreams of adventure. They expected harsh winds, deep snow, and long nights. What they did not expect was that the mountain had secrets. Secrets it would never return. Tonight, in a slow, atmospheric retelling, we walk with them into one of the greatest unsolved mysteries in modern history, a case whispered for decades, and now known as the Dyatlov Pass Incident, a chilling chapter in what many now call the mystery of the Ural Mountains. So relax. Let your breathing settle. And imagine a world made only of snow, wind, and silence. Because our story begins there. Close your eyes. Let the cold settle around you gently. And step back with me into the winter of 1959, where 9 hikers took their final journey into the Ural Mountains. The Dyatlov Pass Incident. Snow fell as softly as sifted flour over the northern Ural Mountains, drifting and settling across a wilderness so vast and silent that even the wind seemed to tread carefully. In this remote corner of Russia, winter did not merely arrive, it claimed. It consumed the land, swallowed the horizon, and muffled the world in a cold so deep it felt ancient. This was the land to which 9 young hikers journeyed in late January of 1959, unaware that their story would become one of the most chilling unsolved mysteries of the 20th century, now whispered among those who love mystery of the Ural Mountains tales. Their names would forever be tied to the place where they disappeared. A place that would one day be called Dyatlov Pass. Underscore 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 un. 1. The journey begins. Igor Dyatlov, the leader of the expedition, was 23 years old, confident, disciplined, admired by his peers. The group trusted him. Most were students from the Ural Polytechnic Institute, strong, experienced hikers who had conquered harsh terrains many times before. They laughed easily, carried themselves proudly, and faced the wilderness with joyful enthusiasm. Their destination was the Otorten Mountain. Its name in the local Mansi language meant, "Don't go there." But the hikers didn't believe in omens. Only in maps, measurements, and their own abilities. They departed by train, chatting and teasing each other, their cheeks rosy with excitement. Photographs taken during the trip revealed bright smiles even in the bleak cold. They carried guitars, journals, and a simple joy for exploration. The world was different then. No GPS. No emergency beacons. Just compasses, notebooks, and trust in each other. Still, everything seemed routine. At first. Underscore 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 un. 2 Into the wilderness. On January 28, one hiker Yuri Yudin fell ill with severe joint pain and reluctantly returned home. The others waved goodbye, unaware he would become the only one to survive the trip. The remaining 9 continued deeper into the Ural wilderness. The snow thickened. The wind sharpened. The land seemed to shift beneath their feet, its icy breath brushing against them like a silent warning. In their final photographs, the hikers appear bundled tightly, frost gathering in their hair. They built snow shelters, cooked food over portable stoves, and wrote cheerful entries in their journals. Their final campsite lies on the gentle slope of Kalatsyakl, known to the Mansi as the Mountain of the Dead. A strange choice. No trees for cover. Open to the harsh wind. But perhaps they were tired. Or perhaps they believed they were closer to their goal than they were. They pitched their tent. They ate. They rested. No one knows exactly what happened next. But sometime after midnight, everything changed. Underscore 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 un. 3. The tent. When search teams eventually found the hikers' tent, it was in shocking condition. Half buried by snow. Sliced open from the inside. No footprints approached it. Only footprints left barefoot, sock-clad, or wearing a single shoe leading down the slope toward the dark forest. It was as though the hikers had fled in panic. But from what? The calm logic of experienced hikers didn't match this scene. These were people trained to survive extreme cold, people who would never leave their tent improperly dressed unless something terrified them deeply. The searchers stood in stunned silence. The wind whispered across the slope. The snow creaked softly. It felt wrong. Deeply, inexplicably wrong. Underscore 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 un. 4. The first bodies. The rescue teams followed the faint trail of footprints down the slope toward the forest. About 1.5 kilometers from the tent, near the edge of a dense cluster of cedar trees, they found the first 2 bodies. Both men, Krivonischenko and Doroshenko, were barefoot, dressed only in their underwear. They were lying beside the remnants of a small fire. Their hands were badly burned, as if they had tried to climb into the flames. Branches in the cedar tree above them were broken nearly 5 meters high. It looked as though someone had climbed frantically in the dark, breaking branches in desperation, perhaps trying to see something far off, something near the tent, something they were too afraid to approach. Snow drifted around the searchers' legs. The forest was silent. Nothing but the whisper of branches. Underscore 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 un. 5. The search widens. Between the forest edge and the tent, searchers found 3 more bodies. Dyatlov, Kolmogorova, and Slobodin. Their poses were heartbreaking, frozen mid-crawl, faces turned toward the tent, as though trying to return. Their clothing was inadequate for the cold. Some had injuries, but nothing severe. It seemed they had tried to go back. But the cold had claimed them before they reached safety. 6 hikers were still missing. 3 weeks passed. Then 4. Then 2 months. The snow slowly thawed. And then deep in a ravine searchers found the last 4. Underscore 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 un. 6. The ravine. The final group was discovered beneath several meters of snow, near a small stream. Their injuries stunned investigators. One had a crushed rib cage. Another had massive internal bleeding. Another had her skull fractured with a force equivalent to a car accident. Yet there were no external wounds. It was as if they had been damaged by pure pressure. Most disturbing. One of the women was missing her tongue and parts of her lips removed not by animals, but cleanly, surgically. They were wearing clothing taken from the earlier victims. Some garments carried traces of radiation. The snow around them had melted strangely, as if exposed to heat at some point. Everything about the ravine felt strange. Too quiet. Too still. As if the forest itself were hiding something. Underscore 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 un. 7. The official questions. The Soviet investigation ended quickly. Too quickly. It concluded with the phrase, "A compelling natural force." Nothing more. The world was left with 1,000 questions and no answers. Why was the tent cut from the inside? Why did they flee half-naked in lethal cold? Why were some injuries so massive and others minor? Why radiation? Why torn clothing? Why crushed bones with no external damage? Why the missing tongue? What happened on that mountain? Over the decades, theories emerged, each more unsettling than the last. Underscore 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 un. 8. The howling wind. The Ural Mountains can produce a phenomenon called a Kármán vortex, street roaring winds swirling in patterns that can generate infrasonic sound. Sound too low for humans to consciously hear, but powerful enough to induce panic, nausea, dread. Could such a sound drive 9 experienced hikers into irrational fear? The theory explains some elements, but not the injuries, not the radiation, not the missing tongue, and not why the hikers split into 2 groups, some fleeing toward the forest, others staying behind long enough to dress, gather clothing, and attempt shelter. The wind alone could not tell this story. Something else happened. Underscore 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 un. 9. The Mansi shadows. The Mansi tribes lived in harmony with the mountains for centuries. They warned outsiders to stay away from Dyatlov. Some believe the hikers trespassed on sacred land. But there was no sign of struggle. No footprints. No weapon marks. The Mansi denied any involvement and there was no evidence to contradict them. Still, the legend lingered. That the land itself did not want visitors. Underscore 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 un. 10 Secret military activity. Others believed the Soviet military was testing parachute mines, radiation weapons, high-frequency sound devices, rocket prototypes. Such weapons could cause internal injuries without external damage. They could generate frightful noises. They could cause panic. But again, no fragments of weapons were found. No reports. No records. Or perhaps records that were never meant to be found. Underscore 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 un. 11 Something in the sky. Some hikers' journals mention strange lights in the sky during the nights before the incident, orange orbs drifting above the mountains. Other locals claimed the same. Glowing spheres. Silent. Illuminating the snow. Soviet rockets. Atmospheric plasma. Something else? The idea of lights disturbing the camp is not impossible. Something bright, sudden, overwhelming. Enough to make them cut their way out of their shelter in terror? No one knows. Underscore 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 un. 12 The calm before the final storm. Let us imagine that last night as gently as possible. 9 hikers inside a tent. A small stove glowing faintly, warmth spreading slowly. Their breath soft, rhythmic. Snow whispering against the canvas. Outside, the Ural night stretched endlessly. A deep, blue-black void. Silent except for the distant, low hum of wind weaving through mountain ridges. The group settles in. They laugh quietly. Someone hums a tune. Someone else writes in a journal. A calm evening. Unremarkable. Peaceful. Hours pass. Then something changes. A sound. A vibration in the air. A light. A pressure shaking the ground. A feeling cold, immediate, instinctive that something is terribly wrong. Perhaps Igor tries to calm them. Perhaps someone reaches for a flashlight. Perhaps they argue quietly, trying to understand. And then panic hits them like icy water. They rip open the tent. They flee into the storm. Some rush blindly. Others hesitate, torn between fear and survival. They scatter into the night. The mountain watches. The snow whispers. And the forest waits. Underscore 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 un. 13 The final hours. The first group reaches the cedar tree. They try to start a fire with trembling hands. The cold gnaws at them, pressing into their bones. The wind screams overhead. They burn their clothing for warmth. They climb the cedar tree to break branches. They slip. They fall. They weaken. The cold takes them. The second group tries to build a snow shelter. They huddle together, wrapping each other in salvaged clothing. But something happens, something violent, sudden, crushing. The ravine becomes their resting place. The remaining three try to return to the tent. The wind is too strong. Their bodies too cold. Their breath too thin. They fall in the snow, one by one. Crawling. Reaching. Hoping. But the mountain is colder than hope. Underscore 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 un. 14. The mountain keeps its secret. The Dyatlov Pass incident remains unsolved to this day. Scientists, historians, hikers, engineers, physicists all have tried to explain it. But the truth slips away like wind through the trees. Perhaps it was nature. Perhaps it was something human. Perhaps something unknown. The mountain never spoke. The snow never told. The forest never whispered its secrets. And maybe that's why the story endures. Because some places do not give answers. Only echoes. Only shadows. Only the quiet chill of a mystery left drifting over a lonely slope in the northern Ural Mountains. And sometimes when the wind rises just right, it sounds like a scream swallowed by the snow. And so, the Dyatlov Pass incident stands frozen in time, a story carved into snow and secrecy. No confession. No final words. Only 9 lives lost to something no one could explain. The mountain never spoke. The forest never whispered. And the wind carried away the truth long ago. What happened that night on Kalatsyak may never be known. But some mysteries linger for a reason. Some mysteries, like the mystery of the Ural Mountains, survive because the world isn't ready for the answers. Thank you for listening. Sleep well. And may the cold winds stay far from your tent tonight.